And so here we are at the end of it all, the last track on the last album of Haunted Holidays, Deadly Christmas 3, the last dance of the Sugared Plum Fairy. I have to admit, in looking back on this, if I had known that I was going to do the trilogy when I did the first album, I probably would have told a little bit more of the backstory of the Sugared Plum Fairy. I didn't really want to do it after that because then, I don't like, when they go back and tell prequels and things like that, because really you have the character you have. But I certainly would have built up more of a story for them. In this song, it kind of leads back to the first album when the Sugared Plum Fairy was beheaded and vowed revenge. And boy, they get it. But for some reason, and I don't know where it came from, I don't know what it was. Maybe I had just seen Godzilla, I don't know. But I kind of envisioned the Sugared Plum Fairy coming back to visit us as this, just giant monster with a really strangely triangular head and, being, several stories tall. I don't know where that came from, but in my mind, that's kind of just, rampaging the entire town. Because if it was just a person, you wouldn't have the chaos in the crowd that you have. And in that chaos, you hear my dear friend Sarah use her voice on it. We recorded that over the phone, so I wanted it to be kind of, in a crowd and not really crystal clear. And recording it over the phone, I didn't have to manipulate it as much. And she is the same Sarah from Haunted Holidays, Deadly Christmas 2, where she had asked me to put her in one of the stories. One of my dearest friends, very lovely young lady. And then you also hear a lot of other crowd noise, what sounds like panic. What that actually was, one night I was just on my walk and I went through the Cosmopolitan. It was on a Friday night, I believe, and it was very loud in there. And normally, it's loud. You hear a lot of people talking and stuff, but they play music loud enough in most of the hotels or most areas of the hotels where you really can't capture audio without getting the song in there. But the audio from the people, it was so busy that it really drowned out any of the hotel music. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity to just capture some audio in case I ever need it. And that was about halfway through that recording, I thought, I bet I can use this on a song here on the album, one of the albums. And so that all that crowd noise is actually just layers of people talking at the Cosmopolitan on a Friday night in Las Vegas. And from there, it was just a matter of how did I want to tell the story of a giant creature sort of destroying the town and everyone panicking and it trying to get its revenge. But also, you don't want to reward that. You don't want to say, I know you were wronged, so getting revenge is the right thing to do and you're going to live happily ever after. I mean, honestly, it just sat there. It's not dead, it's undead because it was killed, but it's back to life now. So basically it's just going to go on living. It doesn't need to eat or have that need for sustenance, but now it's just kind of on this lifeless planet. And so now we come to the idea that maybe all of these things that we've heard about didn't actually happen on our planet. This was sort of the escape planet from where people fled from the destruction of the Sugared Plum Fairy. And so maybe some or all of these things didn't actually take place on Earth. They took place wherever these people came from. So that adds a different feel to the whole thing. But since you don't know that until the end, you can't really look at the songs differently unless you go back and listen to them, and then you start thinking of them through those eyes and go, well, I guess this could have happened somewhere else. And, I pictured everything to happen here out in the woods in the wintertime, or, our minds just go back to, the times when people lived in cabins they built themselves and there was no electricity in that. That just, when you think Christmas stories, that's just where your mind goes. So certainly thinking about villages and people pillaging and all that sort of thing and the birth of Jesus, you're really kind of set up to think of things in that time frame. But, these stories could have been much older than that because they may not have happened here. In fact, they could be not as old as that. That could be more of a recent thing. Who knows? But that's kind of what I like to leave up to people's imagination. You can decide what the world is for yourself. As for the Sugared Plum Fairy, it just didn't seem right not to revisit that story. And there's a part of me that wished I would have set it up differently had I known on the first album that I was going to do more. But I think those songs stand on their own. And this is a great way to end the album, because the first two albums I've got sort of, an outro with sounds of that create images of, okay, all these people that have come out of their graves are going to go back to their graves until next year, until it's time to come out again. You would think for All Saints Day or Samhain or whatever you would think, but in this case, it's really Christmas. So normally you're kind of just picturing everybody going back to their graves because it's, the day's over, the night's over, it's their time. But now it really just kind of tells the story of the Sugared Plum Fairy, and then just a goodbye wrap up. Our Gandalf or wizard character comes back to wish everyone, the moment and say goodbye, because the first two albums, the first album I had a feeling that I was going to do more, but I wasn't sure. But I thought if I say see you next year, it would play for both. If you brought out the album next year to listen to, or if you, if there was a new album out for you to enjoy, either way, see you next year could play to either side. So, of course, by the second one, I knew there was going to be a third one, so I said see you next year. But with this one, knowing that it was probably going to be the last one in the series, certainly the last of the Christmas songs, I thought, I'm not going to say see you next year. It's just going to be goodbye. Thanks for listening to these stories. Thanks for coming along this journey. But I'm not promising you anything next year, because I honestly didn't think I was going to come out with another album, and I didn't. Had I had ideas, I think, like I said, for the album of other holiday songs throughout the year, I think I probably would have done something with that. But knowing at that point that I didn't have any ideas, I thought I'm probably not going to do another album next year, so I should probably wrap this up. But of course, you still have the classic, Cackle that ended the first two albums, which I really liked, and thanks to Ian Gillan, who inspired that. And then the album, it just ends, and that's it. So honestly, I had so much fun doing these albums. I've had a lot of fun revisiting these songs with these behind the song videos that I've done. I've gotten a few bits of feedback on it, and people seem to enjoy it. So thank you very much for listening or watching any of these that you have. I hope that you guys like the albums. I hope that you've enjoyed the journey. Most importantly, please share with other people. Artists really depend on word of mouth. It's a big part of how we get anywhere in our careers these days. So if you know anyone who loves Halloween, loves horror, loves Christmas, then please share these videos, share the songs with them, let them know what's out there to enjoy. Thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart for following me on this journey, and there's so much more coming. Like I said, I'm hoping to have a new album out by the end of the year, and we'll see how that goes. I've got the Haskincast podcast is on a hiatus until the end of the year, but the new podcast, Uriah Heep, the Magician's podcast, is going to more episodes per week. Well, it already will have been by the time this comes out. So, there's lots of stuff coming out. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the things I'm doing, and we'll see you in the next project. Take care.